The library had been quiet until Tom Keller stormed in and found Margaret.
There's a wild animal living under the porch where our kids sit. You will not just ignore it.
A week earlier, Margaret had followed a strange purr to the children's window. Outside, in a patch of sun, a bobcat lay blinking slowly. Amber eyes met hers through the glass. The animal stretched, yawned, and settled deeper. She hadn't fled. She'd stayed.
He wants her gone. But if she's denning, she's protected. I won't act out of fear. She shouldn't be moved. She chose to stay. I called a biologist that first day.
The bobcat under the porch knew nothing of storms inside the library. She merely yawned, curled her tail, and closed her eyes.
You've known for a week, and you didn't tell anyone? She could be dangerous.
Tom left, but his anger spread fast. By evening, the library phone buzzed with frightened parents. That evening, Karen Bell called an emergency council meeting, the room packed tight with worried parents.
We have a situation that cannot be ignored. A bobcat has denned under the library porch. Margaret, you knew. Explain.
I contacted Dr. Alistair Finch, a state biologist. He urged observation before action. The bobcat has shown no aggression.
No aggression? It's a wild predator sleeping feet from the children's section. Waiting is reckless.
Bobcats are shy and typically avoid humans. Forced removal might make her more dangerous. I need time to study her behavior.
How much time? This council won't gamble with children's safety.
1 week. I can set up cameras, assess her condition, and denning status. That's enough to advise the council properly.
1 week. If you see any sign of threat, we vote for removal immediately. Margaret, if this goes wrong, you'll bear the consequences.
1 week. That's all I have to prove she isn't a monster.
As the room emptied, Margaret looked out the window. Under the porch, the bobcat was silent, invisible, holding the town's trust. At dawn, Margaret knelt by the children's window and set up a small wildlife camera, pointing it down toward the porch. By the library door, she pinned a colorful flyer. Bobcat Watch, quiet observation only. Join the junior wildlife observers.
Look, is that a cat sleeping under the porch?
That's not a cat. That's a bobcat. I saw one in a book. She's way bigger.
She's been here a week. Would you two like to be our first junior wildlife observers?
She's clearly denning Margaret. And the camera shows signs she may be pregnant. State law protects a nursing bobcat. The council will have to wait until we know for sure.
Pregnant. That changes the legal situation, but not the fear. We need proof before I can quiet this town.
So we let a wild animal give birth under the library. This is madness.
The council extended the observation, but the town remained split. Under the porch, the bobcat slept on, carrying secrets. Tom didn't wait. He stood outside the library, clipboard in hand, collecting signatures from frightened parents. The local news post read, "Bobcat den under children's library. Parents demand removal. Is your child safe?"
You are turning the library into a wildlife exhibit, Margaret. This petition will force the council to act.
Why are all the grown-ups so scared? She just sleeps there.
Fear is loud, but facts are quiet. Let's learn the quiet truth together about bobcats and why she might be here. Bobcats are wild, yes, but they're also mothers. She may be looking for a safe place, just like any mom would.
Tom, this petition has 300 signatures. I can't ignore it, but I won't rush to a vote without solid reasons.
If they see her as a mother, not a monster, they might wait. I have to hold on.
The petition lay heavy on Karen's desk. Outside the library, the bobcat watched the children pass, silent and still. Beneath the porch, the bobcat blinked slowly, as if asking the whole town for patience. The council convened beneath harsh fluorescent lights. Tom slammed the petition onto the table, his face set.
Madam Chair, this petition demands you stop waiting. 312 people want that animal removed today.
I hear the town's fear, but I also hear legal arguments. Margaret, can you prove she's about to give birth?
I can't prove it yet, but Alistair has been reviewing the camera footage. He asked to speak to the council.
Motion cameras show her carrying dried grass into the den. That's nesting behavior. a sign she's preparing for cubs. If she is about to give birth, state law protects her, and the den site removal now would be illegal and inhumane.
That's not proof. We haven't seen any cubs. You are asking us to gamble on a maybe.
3 days. You, Alistair, will provide definitive evidence. Then we vote. No more delays.
3 days to prove what I already feel. She's a mother. I know it.
Under the porch, the bobcat curled into a tight circle, her breathing slow, her secret still hidden. The town waited. On the second morning, a child broke from the window seat and dashed toward the porch. The boy ran laughing, arms wide. The bobcat, startled, rose quickly, a sharp hiss. The bobcat didn't lunge. She spun and slipped into the dark beneath the porch.
Did you see that? The animal hissed at a child. This is what I warned about.
She didn't attack. She retreated. That's fear, not aggression. Look at the footage.
But fear had already done its work. Karen Bell called an emergency hearing for the next morning.
The camera shows her fleeing. If they'd only look, I have to make them see the truth.
That evening, Margaret played the footage back alone. The bobcat's wide eyes, the desperate retreat into the dark.
Margaret, I am sorry, but we have to vote tomorrow morning. Prepare yourself.
Under the porch, the bobcat remained hidden. The camera light blinked, recording everything. The emergency hearing filled the town hall. Tom stood, his voice sharp as a blade, demanding swift removal.
Margaret let a wild animal loose among our children. The footage shows it could have ended in tragedy. We must vote now.
The footage shows a mother protecting her den. She didn't chase. She didn't threaten. She fled. Let me show you.
Margaret played the video on a laptop. Frame by frame, the bobcat's hiss, then a blur of motion away from the boy.
This is classic denning behavior. She saw a threat and chose flight, not fight. That's the safest response we could hope for.
I see the retreat, but the law says I must consider public safety. If a child had been bitten, we'd be held liable.
The room murmured, turning against Margaret. Then a small voice cut through.
I wrote down what I learned. Can I read it? Bobcats aren't monsters. She chose our library to feel safe. Please let her stay.
We will not vote today, but this is the last delay. I want final evidence by the end of the week. No more extensions.
Tom gathered protesters by the library steps, their signs demanding removal, while inside the window seat filled with curious children.
Protect our kids. You can't learn to read if you are being stalked by a wild animal.
Why are they yelling? She's not hurting anyone. Look, she's just sleeping.
We're going to do something even better than arguing. Starting today, you are all junior naturalists. Alistair will teach us about her world.
Bobcats are shy and mostly nocturnal. The fact she's here during the day means she feels safe. A great sign.
Through the window, the bobcat returned with a squirrel in her jaws, unbothered by the crowd of small faces pressed against the glass.
She caught breakfast. And she didn't even look at us. She knows we're friends.
They're learning. Not just about her, about respect for something wild. This is working.
Parents who had signed the petition began slipping inside, bringing their children to watch, quietly returning to the library they'd condemned. Outside, the protest signs waved. But inside, the window seat had become a classroom, and the bobcat, its calm, unwitting teacher. The council set the final vote for Friday at noon, a red circle on the library calendar, impossible to ignore. Thursday evening. Margaret sat alone in the window seat, the library silent. Through the glass, the bobcat yawned and stretched. Then the bobcat took a step, and Margaret froze, its front paw lifted, a slight but unmistakable limp.
That wasn't there this morning. If anyone sees a limp before the vote, they'll call for removal.
At dawn, Margaret called Alistair. He arrived immediately, studying the camera footage with a frown.
I see it. Small puncture on the forepad, probably a squirrel bite, minor, but she'll favor it for a few days.
Tom will use this. He'll say she's sick, aggressive. The vote is hours away.
The animal is injured. A wounded predator is unpredictable. We can't wait for a tragedy. The council must act now.
Margaret, the vote is set. If the animal appears compromised, I will be forced to rule for removal. I am sorry.
Under the porch, the bobcat licked her wounded paw and curled into a tight circle, her breathing slow, unaware that her small injury had placed an entire town on a knife's edge. At noon, the council chamber was packed. Tom stood, pointing at a blown-up photo of the bobcat's wounded paw.
This wounded animal is living beneath our children. The limp proves she's unhealthy and desperate. We vote for removal today.
I've seen the footage, Tom, but public safety comes first. Unless new evidence emerges, I must call for a vote.
There is new evidence. You wanted proof, and here it is.
Margaret turned the laptop to face the council, and the live camera feed filled the screen. There, under the porch, the bobcat lay on her side. 3 tiny cubs, eyes closed, were nursing quietly.
Are those cubs? She's a nursing mother. The injury, it must be from hunting for them.
A minor puncture from a squirrel bite. Common when nursing bobcats hunt more aggressively to feed their young. She's protecting her family.
This changes everything. State law protects them. The vote is postponed indefinitely. Margaret, you were right.
The room exhaled. Under the porch, the bobcat blinked slowly at her nursing cubs, unaware she had just changed everything. Word spread fast. By the next morning, families were lining up outside the library, eager for a glimpse of the bobcat family.
Margaret, I've arranged for extra volunteers. Consider this the council's full support, as long as we keep the cats safe.
Thank you. Alistair is setting up a remote camera system so we can watch without crowding the den. The children will help us.
This monitor gives a live feed with sound. The kids already named her Fern. They say it's because she's quiet and strong.
I told them. Fern is a mom just like my mom. We have to be very quiet so she isn't scared.
The children took turns at the window seat, teaching newcomers how to observe without noise, pointing out the cubs' tiny striped ears.
They're becoming little ambassadors. This is more than a bobcat, it's a community lesson.
Look, Lily, that one opened its eyes. It's looking right at us.
Outside, Tom watched from a distance, arms still crossed. The protest signs had disappeared. Under the porch, Fern walked slowly, her limp fading, and let her cubs tumble over one another in the evening light. One evening after closing, Tom Keller slipped inside the quiet library. He sat on the window seat, watching Fern nurse her cubs in the fading light.
I didn't expect to see you here.
I spent weeks teaching my daughter to fear this. Then she came home talking about becoming a biologist. All because of Fern. I was wrong, Margaret. I let fear make me blind. I want to help.
The only thing we ever needed was someone to build a proper observation bench.
The next morning, Tom arrived with a toolbox.
I figure it should be lower, so the kids can sit comfortably. And I'll reinforce it to last decades.
The sawdust settled in the morning light as Margaret watched Tom measure twice, cut once, and build something permanent. Outside, Fern watched them through the glass, her cubs asleep at her side, the old protest long forgotten. As the weeks passed, the cubs grew long and wild, tumbling beyond the porch, their bodies too big for the small, dark space.
Fern will start moving them soon. The den's too small now. We can't stop it, and we shouldn't try.
People are already suggesting we leave food out, make it so comfortable she never leaves.
Number. If we feed her, we tame her. She came wild. She has to leave wild. That's the whole lesson.
Margaret's right. We protect them by letting them go. I'll stand with her on this.
The very next dawn, the camera feed showed Fern with a cub in her mouth, walking across the lawn toward the woods.
She's leaving. Caleb, Fern is taking them away.
Margaret, you have to do something. The children are heartbroken. Can't we keep them just a little longer?
Fighting to keep her was the test. Letting her go is the answer. This is the lesson we promised to teach.
By evening, the porch was quieter. A second cub was carried away, leaving only one small, blinking life behind. For 3 days, Margaret and Tom watched the camera feed. A quiet vigil as Fern returned twice more, carrying each cub into the woods. On the third morning, the live feed showed only a hollow of flattened grass under the porch. The children sat in the window seat, silent.
They're gone. All 3 of them. It's like they were never here.
That afternoon, Karen Bell arrived with a clipboard, her face set. She had not come to grieve.
The council voted this morning. No more bobcats. The porch gets sealed, and the window seat must be dismantled by Friday.
That seat is the heart of our children's section now. You'd tear it out like a mistake.
It's a liability. We can't risk another den. This order is final.
Karen, what are we really afraid of? That the kids learn something? I used to be the loudest voice against Fern, and I was wrong.
If I obey, they'll pour concrete over the memory. If I refuse, I'll lose my position. The library could lose its heart either way.
Karen left the order on the desk. Outside, the sunlit porch waited, empty, and the window seat held a singular question. Whose library was it now? Margaret walked into the council chamber, the order clutched in her hand. Tom stood beside her, silent and solid.
Fern didn't just live here, she taught here. You can take my job if you want, but I will not erase her lesson.
I led the petition to tear that den out. I was wrong. This library changed my daughter's life, and that window seat is why.
The chamber door opened. Lily and Caleb walked in, holding a thick stack of paper covered in children's handwriting.
Madam Chair, this is a petition from every kid who learned something because of Fern. We want the window seat to stay forever.
How many signatures?
109. Almost every kid in town.
I see. The council hears the will of the people, all of them. The order is rescinded. The window seat stays.
We'll need a real program now. Something official, for the kids.
The window seat remained, and in that quiet victory, the true work of a library began not just to witness the wild, but to teach it forward. Over the following weeks, the window seat took shape: solid oak, a deep cushion, and a small brass plate.
I counterboard the screws, so nothing catches. This seat will outlast us.
Fern's seat. Stay curious. She would like that.
The remote camera in their new den just sent this. Look, all 3 cubs hunting together, fully independent.
The state grant was approved this morning. We have funding for the first official wildlife wisdom program.
Then, let's begin. Lily, Caleb, would you two like to lead the first lesson?
I can teach them to identify tracks. We practiced with the plaster casts last week.
And I know the best spot to find owl pellets. Can I bring them in?
The first workshop filled the library. Parents who once protested now sat with their children, sketching bobcats in the margins of field guides. Fern's lesson had become a permanent program, and on the wall beside her photograph, the plaque caught the afternoon light. Within months, the Wildlife Wisdom program drew school buses from across the county. The little library had become a destination.
The new camera trap caught Fern and her cubs just yesterday. Healthy, hunting as a family. They're thriving.
Lily's essay on Fern won the state Young Naturalist contest. It hung framed beside the plaque.
I wrote that we learn to be quiet and watch. That's the biggest gift she gave us.
This letter from the State Conservation League. They want to use our library as a model for community wildlife education.
The county board voted unanimously. Every school will now incorporate wildlife wisdom into their curriculum. Fern's lesson is state approved.
The window seat remained full. Children still pressed faces to glass, watching for a glimpse of the wild. But now they knew. Sometimes the wildest gifts are the ones you let go. The library had become a place where curiosity stayed, long after the bobcat had gone. Fern's seat would always hold the memory of a mother who trusted a town to learn. One evening after the last child had left, Margaret sat alone on Fern's seat. The library was silent. The brass plaque caught the last light. Fern's seat, stay curious. A small stuffed bobcat and a fresh bouquet of wildflowers rested on the cushion beside her.
A year ago, I was afraid too, afraid of a mother protecting her young. Now this library is hers, even without her.
She looked at the framed photograph on the wall. Fern lying on her side, 3 tiny cubs nursing in the sun.
You gave them wonder. And you showed me that the bravest thing a library can do is stay open to the wild.
Through the window, the porch was empty. The woods beyond stood quiet in the falling dusk. The lesson Fern left behind wasn't about cats. It was about learning to trust what we don't understand. Margaret touched the plaque once, then rose. The library would open again tomorrow. Curiosity had been given a permanent home, and in the stillness, the library held its breath, not in fear, but in the calm after a great lesson had been learned. The library windows burned gold in the last light. The porch was empty, but not forgotten. On a far ridge where the lawn met the tree line, a shape paused. A bobcat silhouette, broad and still, looked back at the library for a long moment. Then she turned, and the forest swallowed her whole. She stayed long enough to teach, long enough to trust and be trusted. Then she went back to being exactly what she was, wild and free. The library kept her lesson alive, in the quiet of a window seat and the hearts of the children who learned to watch. And somewhere in the woods, a bobcat raised her cubs, teaching them in turn what it means to be wild. As the sun set, the library stood as it always had, but now with a story written into its walls. A library is a place for stories, and this one had become part of the wild itself. The library settled into the night, its windows glowing like a lantern placed on the edge of the wild. The porch where Fern had slept was empty, but the story had not left it. Inside, the window seat bore the mark of 100 small hands, waiting quietly for tomorrow's children. The camera slowly pulled back, the light dimming, until only the outline of the library remained against the stars. A final thought came to rest, like a mote of dust in the stillness, dedicated to libraries and the wild hearts they shelter. For every child who pressed their face to the glass, and for every grown-up who learned to see differently. For Margaret, who refused to let fear erase a lesson. And for Fern, who was never theirs, but who gave them more than they could have asked from any teacher. Slowly, the screen brightened, revealing the brass plaque on the polished wood of the windowsill. The engraving caught the light. Fern's seat. Stay curious. A child's hand drifted into the frame, fingertips resting gently on the raised letters. It was the hand of someone who had once pressed their face to the glass in wonder. The library was silent around it, the window seat empty, but not abandoned. Then, from the far woods, a sound broke the quiet, a bobcat's yowl, distant and wild. It floated across the lawn, through the porch, and brushed against the window glass. The yowl echoed for a heartbeat, then melted into the forest hush. The hand lifted away, leaving the plaque to the morning light, and the image softened into darkness, until the screen held nothing but memory. The screen lit once more, a slow fade into the library at night. Its porch was dark, the den entrance a hollow of calm. Through the window, Fern's seat sat empty, its cushion holding the memory of 100 small watchers. No one walked the paths. The story had been told. The library stood as it always had, a quiet harbor for the curious. But now it carried a truth learned from a bobcat, that the wild is not an enemy to fear. It is a teacher to be trusted, a neighbor to be watched with wonder. The image held for a breath, then began its slow retreat into shadow. The windows shrank to pinpricks, then to nothing, and the world fell silent. The story of Fern had become part of the library, and the library had become a part of the wild.